1 West under commanding General Yohana. Since 1969, I've been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and the indigenous of North America our true identity according to the Bible, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, or the Lord's chosen people. And according to these scriptures, it's the only people on the face of this earth that the Lord gives a damn about. And of course, that our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Today is the Indianapolis Monday night history class. So we're going to be going into interracial relationships, as well as the lie it is that America has pushed upon our people of this disgusting kingdom just being one big melting pot where everybody can come together, where we can all join hand in hand and make Martin Luther King's dream come to fruition. Saying which is all a lie. Saying our people, we got to recognize that America's whole philosophy of everybody coming together and being one people, it's not the first time that has been put into this earth. And so there was another mighty oppressor empire that also had that same philosophy. That was a ruthless, empire for the Israelites to live under. Saying we're going to actually go ahead and get that in the scriptures. We're going to go to 1 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 1, verse 41. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41. Book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom, saying King Antiochus, of course, this was a disgusting Greek king who ruthlessly oppressed so-called blacks, Hispanics, and the indigenous, the 12 tribes of Israel. Saying he's no different from the presidents it is that our people so wholeheartedly elect over them every single year. Saying that give our people false promises and ended up oppressing us worse than the next devil that ruled over us. That all should be one people. Saying that's exactly what America says. And saying America always pushes that philosophy of one nation under God. You understand? Just one people joined together. When in reality, that's a lie. Saying if that was the case, they wouldn't have had so-called African Americans as 3/5 of a man in their constitution. And saying if that was the case, they wouldn't consider our Hispanic brothers as being, dogs, or the natives in the reservations as being nothing more than savages, uncivilized beasts. These are the lies it is that our oppressor teaches us. And it's so sad that these lies they have taught for so long are able to trick our people, are able to keep us under this spell in this kingdom. And we can really contribute all of it to our religious leaders who have encouraged our people to fully integrate and become the best Americans, out there, out on this earth. Because sadly, no matter how much oppression it is that we go under as a people, we're always, the most patriotic out of all nations. And our people are more patriotic than our oppressor is. And this is his country. Verse 42, and everyone should leave his laws. And saying that's exactly what happens for any nation that comes to America. Saying that they adopt the laws of America. They adopt the customs of America, and they become, fully Americanized. You understand? So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. And that's exactly what the heathens do today when they come into this country, come into these lands. And saying they agree to accept America's laws and to no longer live by the laws of China, you understand, or the laws of Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan. You understand, they leave behind their customs in order to make it big in this country. You understand, because they're promised by the U.S. government all these different contracts within the Black, Hispanic, and indigenous communities so that they can become rich. You understand, so that they're no longer the bottom of their society. Verse 43, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. And of course, many of our people also saw it as being a good idea to follow after our oppressor, and to follow after his religion. And that's exactly what our religious leaders have done in this country, and have really persuaded the rest of the nation to do so as well. You know what I'm saying? Just the only difference is that our so-called leaders, they benefit after following after our oppressor, just like the heathens do. You understand? They might get, might not get as many riches as these heathens do. And of course, they get the crumbs, but as long as they're higher above their people, as long as they're higher above Blacks, Hispanics, and the indigenous, yes, and these religious leaders, they don't give a damn. As long as they're not just some poor nigga, you understand, poor spick or some poor savage. That's the philosophy it is that America, you understand, teaches our people. And we wonder why it is that so many of our youth end up hating themselves and slipping into depression and committing suicide. It's because this country teaches our people to not love themselves, you understand, to hate one another, and to look up to the heathen who came out of poverty from another disgusting country, another disgusting nation, and were able to make it big out here. And sacrifice unto idols and profane the Sabbath. And that's exactly what our people do today in the Christian churches. You understand, the mosque, following African spirituality, just all these different religions it is that our people follow inside of the land of America. So we're going to go to the book of Genesis, chapter 6, and verse 1. Slide. All right, now we're going to get into a little bit of the history of how it is that the Lord views interracial relationships, how it is that the Lord understands what it is that he wants to do to his people, and what he has done to his people when we decide to stray from the path and go get some disgusting heathen above a sister. So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. And if you don't know, this is the flood story. You understand? So this is these heathen nations, I'm saying, who began to spread across the land. I'm saying, who began to have these disgusting heathen daughters that our people love oh so much. I'm saying, even we're about to learn that even back then our people had love for heathen women. You understand? Desired the women of another nation over their own. Verse 2. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. And because the Christian church has no understanding, they'll tell you that the sons of God, it's like, are actually fallen angels, which is utter nonsense. You understand? An angel has no use to desire a woman. You understand? A desire to have sex. That's not. You know, the angels weren't created to have that feature. You understand? The angels, they're just straight soldiers. They have one purpose, which is to serve the Lord without failure. You understand? The sons of God, that's the people it is that the Lord had chose. You understand? That's the descendants of Adam. You understand? So these were men. These were not some supreme deity or angel. You understand? And you know as men, because if you look at the name of Israel, you understand, Yasha'Allah, which means princes of power. You understand, the prince is a son of a king. So you're saying you're the son of the power, which power is the Most High God. Saying which you can learn all about that in the Hebrew class. And they took them wives of all which they chose. And that's exactly what our people do today. You understand? A brother can't wait to go out and get him some disgusting heathen, so it is that he can think that he's finally made it in this empire. To think that, things are going to be on the up and up, all because he went and got him a heathen woman, and he'll no longer be oppressed and living in hell.
That's right.
Saying when that's simply not the case. That's just the dreams of Martin Luther King. That's the lies of Christianity, that someone would think just because they've gotten them a heathen that they've made it in the world. Verse 3. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man. You understand? Like, this is the Lord saying, like, he's not always going to be going back and forth, you understand, with his chosen people, trying to get them to stop loving these disgusting heathens. But he can only accept so many sacrifices before the Lord has to punish his people. You understand? As a good father would. But yet the Christian church, because they don't really teach our people these scriptures, you understand, like, they don't talk about the true meaning of what's in here. You understand? They don't bring up how it is that the earth was like the land was flooded because we were sleeping with these other nations when the Lord told us not to. For that he also is flesh. You understand? And the Lord doesn't have to go back and forth with us because we're flesh. He can just take away the body it is that we have now and, you understand, put us back in this earth. You understand? Let us try again to get things right. Right. That's one thing we don't recognize as a nation, is that the Lord, he's not afraid to, take your life because you've decided to turn your back on him. Because you decided to go into the way of the heathens and to take their women as your wives and to take their men as your husbands. And the Lord, he ain't all lovey-dovey like the Christian church would make him out to be. You understand? He is a man of war.
Right.
It's like, Cap, did you want the class?
No, I'm too loud.
Okay. Yet his days shall be as 120 years. Verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days. And due to the severe lack of understanding it is that our people have, I will actually read this and think that there was, 2-story tall people walking around the earth during these times, because some angel laid with a human woman, and they've created giants and leviathans and just all this nonsense it is that the Christian church really puts out there to further lead people away from the truth. You know what I'm saying? When it's talking about giants, it's letting you know that the children that came out of these interracial relationships, you understand, they were big in the world. You understand? They had power. Just think of like the actors today who have a black father and a white mother, or a Samoan mother, an Asian mother. That's exactly who I was thinking of was The Rock, Khan Khan. You understand? Your Vin Diesels, your Naomi Osaka. You understand? All these different big names in this earth who their father didn't stick with their nation. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. You understand? And that's exactly how it is that these brothers and sisters are viewed, is being really someone more important than they really are. And the reason is that America exalts these brothers and sisters to such a high status is because they don't have that full blackness to them. You understand? America likes to look at brothers and sisters where they don't have to be reminded that this is a nigga in their face. You understand? Doing all these amazing things and breaking all these records and getting all this glory. Understand? America loves it when we go out and get us a heathen woman, so that way, the looks of our children are watered down per se. Verse 5. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth. You understand? And these relationships it is that our people were having then, like the Lord, he saw it as utter wickedness. You understand? So great of a wickedness that he's going to have to do something about this. You understand? And we should really thank the Lord that he promised, understand, our people that he wouldn't flood the earth as he did back then. Because with the way that brothers and sisters are loving heathens in America, you understand, it is utterly ridiculous. You understand? And we wonder why it is that there's so much confusion going on in the land.
Right.
And that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. You understand? And like that's all that goes on in brothers' heads is their imagination of, or their thoughts of getting with an oppressor's woman.
Right.
You understand? And brothers always try to justify their actions by either if you have a relationship with an oppressor or if you're just sleeping around with them. You understand? Trying to to say that, oh well, I do this for my forefathers that were lynched for looking at what it's like our oppressors women. You understand? I do this for my forefathers that were in chains. You understand? That's why it is I sleep with the slave master's daughter. That's utter nonsense.
Right.
If anything, you truly dishonor your forefathers by laying with the same women who falsely accuse them of whistling or trying to, sleep with them, and they ended up getting lynched. You know what I'm saying? Ended up getting castrated, ended up getting pulled apart by horses or ripped apart by dogs. There is no honor in laying with your oppressor's daughters.
That's right.
And we can thank the Christian church for thinking, you understand, that a foolish dream would, justify everything.
Right.
Verse 6. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Verse 7. And the Lord said, I will destroy man who I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. You understand? And the Lord, he was so upset then that brothers were out here sleeping with other nations' women. You understand that he made a plan that he was going to destroy everything. You understand? Through the flood, which of course you read later on in the chapter, and you'll find that out. You understand? And like, our people don't realize that the stories that are in this Bible, from Genesis all the way to it's like Revelations, with the Apocrypha in the middle, like these are all for our learning. It's so that we don't make the same mistakes as our forefathers did. I'm saying, if our people knew that the Lord flooded, the earth because of interracial relationships, like how would that impact how our people actually view, getting with the heathen woman?
Right.
Like we would truly look at them in a different light. You know what I'm saying? If we really knew the truth of these scriptures, our people would look at it differently, also due to the crimes that have been committed against us. You understand? You can't lie with the child of your oppressor and expect for things to change. Like, we tried that in these scriptures in the past, and we just get oppressed and destroyed even more. Verse 8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So we're about to find out why it is that Noah found grace. Verse 9. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. And saying Noah was perfect because he kept the law, statutes, and commandments. You understand? Because he knew that getting a heathen woman or a woman of another nation, he knew that it was against the Lord. You understand? That's why it is the Lord chose him, because he didn't decide to give in to his lustful desires for another nation. You understand? Because he didn't turn his back on the women of his nation. You understand? He decided to take him a sister for a wife instead of a heathen.
That's right.
I'm saying, by doing so, he got a hell of a blessing for it. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that brothers needed to take into account when they're considering getting a wife. And so you get a heathen woman thinking that's going to bring you up in society, and that is going to change your life for the better.
Right.
Like that's really just going to make your life harder, because now you have to tiptoe around, discussions of the oppression that's going on with your people and how it is that her people are doing it to yours.
Right.
You understand? When you could get you a sister, and sure, you could have you understand, one of the most solidest families out here.
Right.
You understand? You got a sister that can relate to the oppression that's going on because it's her people that's being oppressed alongside yours. You understand? All right, drop that. I'm going to go to Genesis chapter 24 and verse 3. Give you a second to get there. Book of Genesis, chapter 24, verse 3.
Boy, also shades up there.
I don't see him on the one.
What?
I saw you got 3 of them over there, though. Are you talking about the ones that hook onto your? No, I don't see him on the one. Genesis chapter 24, verse 3. And I will make thee swear by the Lord, the God of heaven, and the God of the earth. And saying that this is Abraham talking to his servant, or really giving his servant orders, saying to go find his son Isaac a wife. You understand? And he making this brother swear to the Most High God that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites. And saying he's making this brother swear to the Lord that he would not go to some disgusting heathen nation to take a wife for his son. You understand? This is the one of the patriarchs of, you understand, our nation. You understand, of these scriptures right here.
Right.
You understand, it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, among whom I dwell. And even with Abraham dwelling amongst these heathens, you understand, the Canaanites, even then he made sure that his servant wouldn't go to these people to take a wife of them. And saying, and that's a valuable lesson our people can get from these scriptures, because we think just because we're in the land of America, we think just because we're surrounded by these people that we have to take a wife from our oppressors' daughters. You understand? We think that in some way we have to join to them, all because we're within their borders. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter where it is that we are as a nation. These laws will always, be in effect. You understand? We're always to get us a sister to wife. You understand? Sisters, you're always to get you a brother.
That's right.
There is no compromise in these scriptures. You understand? You are to live your life as the Lord has demanded for you to do so. Otherwise, you face death as the brothers and sisters did in Genesis. You understand, with that flood. And of course, throughout multiple stories, or slightly throughout multiple books in these scriptures. Verse 4, but thou shalt go unto my country. And saying Abraham's making sure that his servant knows that he's to go to his nation.
Right.
You understand? His people, in order to get his son a wife. You understand? Abraham wasn't with the whole swirling movement. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't with the whole melting pot of joining all these other nations as one nation. Saying if that was the case, he would have told him to go to the Canaanites.
Right.
And to my kindred, and saying to go to his family and take a wife unto my son Isaac. Saying it's as simple as that. We're going to go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, and verse 1. And we got to start charging our Christian pastors with not teaching us these scriptures right here. You know what I'm saying? And completely going against them when telling us how it is that we should be living in this empire. Like the scriptures say to gather yourself together, O nation not desired. Yet Christian pastors, they have fought time and time again to make sure that we integrate into, America's society, to make sure that we become the best Americans that there is in this earth. You understand? When the scriptures say nothing about that, the scriptures say the complete opposite. And these pastors, they know it. You understand? Like these devil pastors, they know it. They're the ones telling the black church not to teach, the truth of this Bible, not to teach our people that Christ is a black man, which I believe Captain Kahan Tamyad brought that out a few weeks ago on Black Watch. Understand? The ISUPK, we've been exposing the truth of this Bible as well as these Christian pastors who have lied to us for so long, and who have been in the pockets of our oppressor. Sorry. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. You understand? These 7 nations, you understand, who were far superior than the children of Israel in the world. You understand? The Lord cast out before us. You understand? And we're gonna be getting into it. You understand? But that's just like, that's like, let me get this real quick. This skip down to verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. You understand? And the Lord told us that we shouldn't be making relationships with these heathen nations. These 7 great nations in the earth that he cast out before us. You understand? He didn't sit there and say that they had a rich and vibrant culture, so we should flock to it. So it is that we had more of an identity or a God it is for us to serve. You know what I'm saying? He didn't make the point to say that they weren't enslaved by the Egyptians. You understand? The Lord made sure that we knew not to join to these heathen nations. Go ahead.
If I might add one, Lord don't give a damn about what they got.
Damn right.
I ain't got what he want.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And the only thing the Lord wants is the 12 tribes of Israel. You understand? So Oh, Sluggy. It's saying this is exactly the opposite of what our people do today in America. We think because China has such a rich culture that they were able to keep for centuries, you know what I'm saying, for generations, even coming over into America. We think that we have to join to that. You know what I'm saying? We think that that's going to give us some kind of identity it is that we can have as a people, because I mean that's one of the major things it is that we lack as a nation is an identity. And saying we think because the Africa is supposedly, you know, the cradle of civilization, where all things started. And saying we think that's got to be us as a people. You understand that we have to gravitate towards that and accept their disgusting culture, no matter how destructive it is to our people.
And if I could say something about that,
Come.
they say in Africa the cradle of salvation, of civilization, because that's where they find the so-called oldest remains. That don't mean shit.
Right.
Excuse my language. Because that's just what you found.
Right.
That don't mean that's the oldest one out there.
Right. Come.
The whole world is huge. You're gonna dig every hole all over the world to find the bones.
Come.
So just because you found some old bones over here, don't mean there's not some older bones.
Right.
Like it could be older bones right under where we sit.
Right.
You know, how would you know? It'd be 20 feet underground, older than that bones they found.
Come.
So you can't believe the oppressor on that.
Come.
Yeah, shit.
What he say?
He said we is no bones.
Hey, come.
But my thing is, how you gonna start the whole earth for every bone?
Right.
It's not possible. You don't know what's the oldest bones out there. That's just the oldest ones they found.
Come.
You know, so that don't mean nothing.
Right.
They find some new older ones next week.
Right.
You don't know. That's all.
I say it's like every 5 years they find the oldest bones in the earth.
Right.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? But our people do the complete opposite of what this scripture says. You understand? We think because these nations have such a rich history that, you know, that it's gotta like we gotta get involved with it so that we can be somebody. You understand? But if you just get in these scriptures, you'll figure out that we are the greatest nation on this earth. You understand? We might not be the oldest out here. You understand? We might not be the cradle of civilization. Instead, we might not be exalted in this earth like the Chinese or Japanese with their, you know, ancient culture. You understand? But at the end of the day, even with us lacking an identity, we're still the greatest people on this earth.
Right.
Because we are the Lord's chosen people, the 12 tribes of Israel. You know what I'm saying? So-called blacks, Hispanics, and the indigenous. Verse 4, for they will turn away thy son from following me. And like that's just so heavy, because the Lord, he knows exactly how it is that we're wired as a people. You understand? He knows that if we go out and we sleep with some disgusting heathen woman, instead and try to make a relationship with them, he knows that they're going to pull us away from him. You understand? And it might be something as little as, you know, going to dinner at their place. You understand? You sit down to eat your, it's like they can say, you sit down to eat their fried rice, you understand, and chicken, which is really dog. Like that's a way for them to pull you away from the Lord. And before you dig into that dog, like they're gonna have you praying to their gods. You understand? Just give you little things here and there about their culture that'll get you interested, because they know that you don't have a culture of your own.
Right.
At least as a whole. You understand? Because the ISUPK, we have the culture of blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous. You understand? We know our history and we've been teaching it to our people since 1969.
That's right. That's right.
You understand? But we gotta watch out for these other nations because they have some of the most subtle ways to get brothers and sisters to follow after their people, that they may serve other gods. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what happens when we go chasing after another nation's women, or their men. You understand? Back in, what was it, the 80s, 70s or 80s? You understand, when the what's that cat's name? When the Bruce Lee flicks were coming out,
Right.
you understand? And the brothers, they was just trying their best to find them some disgusting Asian woman. You understand? Getting up into them massage parlors and getting them me love you long time. Goddamn. and just getting all that done so they can try to get them some heathen woman. You understand? When, like, them brothers found out the hard way that that's not the way to go. You understand? Them brothers found out the hard way that them Asians, they hate you just as much as our oppressor does. You understand? That's why they was gunning down, you understand, brothers and sisters in their stores in the 80s and 90s. You got something you want to add, Shmosh one?
If I may, I just want to point out how it's comical to someone like me, how when it talks about these fake ass guys, how it's just a lowercase g. You know what I'm saying? When it's talking about a heathen's guy,
Mm-hmm.
how it's just a lowercase g.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just something that got brought to light to me just recently.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I just that's all I wanted to say. It's just funny to me how they just lowercase guys. They ain't
Right.
they ain't the real deal.
Right. You know, saying that's a heavy point because, like, just throughout the centuries it is of oppression that our people lived under, and all the gods it is that we've turned to. I mean, we turn to, you know, of course, Buddhism, however you say it. You know, in the 80s when brothers, they was flocking to the martial arts studios and to the food spots and the parlors to get them a woman. You know what I'm saying? We was turning to Islam, what some fools should call the black man's religion. You understand? We just flocking to that to try to get salvation. You understand? To get out from under this oppression. We've been flocking to African spirituality nonsense, which is just gay. You understand? Like, we've been flocking to that since, it's like, Cap, what was it, like 2000s, 2010s? African spirituality.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been since the 80s.
Yes,
It's been since back in the day, but so Ethiopia, people loving Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, getting high, Egypt, the Egyptologists, they had a whole community back in the 90s in Atlanta. What's the name of that guy? Malachi Z. York. He had a big land with like 1,000 people living there, molesting children. They building pyramids, putting on little pharaoh hats and stuff. So we always been looking at that.
Right, con. I was saying, you had said who was it that took us to Africa, and I think you said we established Liberia.
Liberia.
Yeah, Liberia.
That was President James Monroe. Said James Monroe. He set up Monrovia in Liberia, and that's a basically slave settlement from America that he sent back and to establish over there to try to make the Africans more like him or more like us. And so he set some Negroes over there, and they set up a land, but they've been fighting Africans ever since.
Right,
Africans trying to heat out their hearts. A lot of them civil wars over there in Liberia and Monrovia. It's black people, descendants of black people fighting the Africans, the local Africans.
You understand? So we've been turning to these heathen gods for a very long time, but yet none of them have saved us as a people. If anything, turning to them really makes our condition worse. And saying like Captain said, when we went over into Africa, thinking we was those people, you understand, following their gods and their religions. Shoot, now we're in a never-ending, civil war over there. If that's what it'd be, that would be labeled, Cap, civil war.
Yeah.
Okay. You understand, civil war. You understand?
They would call it like tribal warfare now.
Come. You understand? Following Islam, you had the increase of drugs coming into our communities and really a spike in violence. You understand? And of course, everybody's a Christian, and we know exactly what's happening within our communities nowadays. Like, these other guys, they are not the solution for our people. You know what I'm saying? That's why we got to come back to our own power. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly? Let's see, we can drop that. It's lucky. It's like 1 second. 1 second. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23 and chapter 8. Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 8. You understand, we're about to be getting into really the fate of the children it is that our people have through these interracial relationships. You understand, and it's very important that our people recognize that these relationships really lead to the downfall of our nation. You understand, breaking any of these laws, statutes, and commandments, it really leads to the downfall of our people. You understand, and you can take any account of a brother or sister that's a byproduct of that act, and you'll really find out how it is that's impacted them, not only mentally but spiritually as well. You know what I'm saying? Because it's very destructive to brothers and sisters, because they don't realize where it is that they belong as a people. So that's why I personally gotta thank the Lord for the Isupk. Right. And otherwise, should be extremely lost. You understand? This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23, verse 8. The children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in their third generation. Slakia, in their third generation. And it's so sad, because a lot of our people who so desperately desire to sleep with our precious women, they'll view this as being a good thing. View this as being a reason to sleep with, these other nations. When in reality, this is actually a deterrent. Because the Lord is saying that child won't be able to come into the nation until the third generation. You understand? Until that child has a child, and then that child has a child. You understand? Like our people don't, because we were so accustomed to supposedly being integrated into American society, we don't really view being cut off from our nation as something that's bad. Something that could be destructive to the youth of our people. That's why so many of our people, desire to be living in the suburbs with devils, or desire to put their children in damn near all white schools, so it is they can get, supposedly a better education. You know what I'm saying? To separate from your people, that's something that America gladly promotes and pushes on the Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous community, but it's just so very destructive to our people. You know what I'm saying? You can ask any brother or sister saying who has a heathen mother, and they'll tell you the horror stories it is that they had to face, saying throughout their youth, when it comes to being amongst these nations. You know what I'm saying? Because your father might think, oh well, you'll just blend in and you'll be one with everybody. You know what I'm saying? They might think, oh well, they just gotta get to know you and you'll be welcomed in with open arms. When that's simply not the case. You understand? And if I could, you know what I'm saying, since it's public knowledge, since it was brought out on Cross the Line Radio, you know what I'm saying, Captain Kataza, Slaki, Captain of 10,000 Kataza, told such a heavy story of growing up in his youth and really being separated from his people, you know what I'm saying, in school. You understand? The brother went to school with a bunch of devils, of course. You understand? Rode the bus with rich Italian devils, in which case he had to fight every single day, really for his life, because these devils, they knew that he wasn't one of them. So even with as fair of a complexion it is that brother has, you understand, and these devils, they still singled him out because his hair was kinkier than theirs. You understand? Because his spirit was completely different from theirs. You understand? Up until the point of where these devils, they tried ultimately lynching him on the school bus one day. You understand? They took a string from a yo-yo and wrapped it around his neck and tried strangling him to death. And that's the horror stories it is that our people face every single day. And I got to thank the Lord that I know to get with a sister and to teach my children who it is that your people are. You understand what woman it is you're supposed to take, you understand, for a wife. You understand? Because without this truth, it's a lot. You understand? And just imagine how lost brothers and sisters are like that, not knowing which side it is they're to go to. You know what I'm saying? They look at one hand, which is, I look like, I got a similar complexion to these devils. Look at the other hand, my father's a nigga. You understand? I got the spirit of a nigga. So it's like, where do I go? And because we're not taught these scriptures, and we go based off of what America teaches, which is, really, colorism. And we think, well, I gotta go, join to the devils because I look like them. When that's simply not the case. You know what I'm saying? So it's very destructive sent to your children if you lay with the heathen, because you cut them off from your nation. And it really goes to show how little you love your children if you lie with a heathen woman, and how little you love your child if you try to justify, you understand, lying with the heathen because they get to enter in the third generation. Like it's just utter nonsense. You understand? Like you need to get into these classes immediately, or else, we're gonna really deteriorate further and further as a nation. I'm gonna go to book of Ezra, chapter 2, verse 59. Ezra chapter 2, verse 59. This is the book of Ezra, chapter 2, verse 59. And these were they which went up from Tamalah to Harsa, Cherub, Adon, and Imir. And these were, you understand, Israel, which it came up from these lands. But they could not, but they could not shew their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. You understand? And due to, of course, what we're going over tonight, interracial relationships, you understand, and the curses it is that we live under as a nation, which is many of us not knowing our fathers. You understand? These brothers were not able to show, you understand, our father's house or our nation, who it like that we belong to them. You understand that we were trying to declare our pedigrees by our fathers, but because our fathers decided to take these heathen women, like we couldn't do so. You understand? And that's a fact that so many brothers and sisters face today in the land of America. You understand? Just imagine how many brothers have been ran off by a heathen woman, after they've conceived a child. You understand? Leaving these brothers and sisters to not know, who it is that they are. Like that's something that faces so many brothers and sisters, and it's just crazy because it's something that's so so prominent within our communities, is that we have brothers and sisters out there that don't know who their fathers are or that they are of Israel. You know what I'm saying? You could only imagine how many brothers and sisters try to come into the school that simply don't know if their father is Black, Hispanic, or Indigenous, or who their father's father is. You understand? And that's something that casually happens when you get with the heathen, is that you get ran off by these heathens. You understand? Especially if you're with some disgusting devil who really hates your guts. You understand? That they run brothers off real quick and seek to further destroy them by spreading lies and slandering their name. And that's who sisters really get it from. You understand? They adopt that spirit of our oppressor and try to ruin the life of a brother. You understand? And that's something that these heathens, they've been doing for so very long. I mean, just look at the time when the lynchings were most prominent. You understand? Is brothers being lied on by female devils. You understand? Go ahead.
If I may, let me tell you.
Damn right. You understand? Countless brothers and sisters. You understand? Even I mean, it's hard telling, how many brothers and sisters have actually been lynched, because our oppressor, being the devil he is, he likes to pad the numbers. So he likes to not document some things and make some things seem like it's just an accident. You understand? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and they, if I may, they got the nerve to say they'll never forget 9/11.
Right.
I'll never get that. Shalom.
You understand? But yet they get mad at Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous when we remember the crimes, the war crimes that have been committed against us, as well as the lies that have been pushed for generations.
Right.
Gonna go to Book of Judges, chapter 3, verse 5. Yes, and another important thing to take away from Ezra is, basically the same as in, Deuteronomy 23 and 8, the importance of ensuring that your children are able to join together with their people. You know what I'm saying? You like, I can't emphasize this enough. You do not want to try to separate your child from their people. It's going to end badly. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to have instances like what happened to Captain Katazai. It's like a captain of 10,000 Katazai. You understand? And there's going to be brothers and sisters that don't survive, assaults like that. You understand? That don't have the Lord with them, and you're gonna lose a child. You understand? You're gonna have children that are gonna end up slipping into depression and committing suicide because they have to face these devils every single day instead of their lives in school and sports, and be completely ridiculed by these people. You understand? I mean, our people, we don't realize the amount of physical abuse it is that our children go through. You understand? We don't realize the amount of mental abuse, the amount of sexual abuse it is that our children go through in these schools and within these devil communities, thinking that they can just fit in because they got fair skin. And so our oppressor's always going to be able to know who is a nigga. You understand? Our spirit won't allow for us to act like them. You understand? And we don't give off that same vibe as them, and they're going to realize that. And so they're gonna realize that, well, he's not an Asian. You understand? He's not an African. He's not an Arab, and he's Indian. He's not one of me. So I mean, he can only be a nigga. And once they see that child's parents, it's a done deal. And we got to start coming together as a people and joining to our own. That's the only way. That's the only way that we're going to be able to break these curses and get out of this captivity as a people. Actually, I want to go to. Actually, I want to go to the book of Numbers, chapter 25, verse 6. I'll give you a minute to get there. Did you want more of this strong thing?
Yeah.
What's that in Christ?
Strong's pretty strong.
Right.
I can say so myself.
You gotta let brothers know that be hating, Cap.
You want some smartphone?
It's wild.
I say he knows what it is. That's why. All right. This is book of Numbers, chapter 25, verse 6. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, it's like it. Verse 6. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you know what I'm saying, this brother did back then what so many brothers do today. You know what I'm saying? He got him some disgusting heathen woman, and he brought him before his brethren to flaunt this heathen. Like she was something special. And it's so disrespectful to do so. You know what I'm saying? Because around this time, you know what I'm saying, our people were being afflicted by the Lord because we had made, relationships with these heathens. You understand? Because, and like it brought out in Deuteronomy, you understand, when we made relationships, it brought us on to other gods. And saying, and this brother had the audacity to get him a heathen and try to flaunt her in front of his brothers, knowing that the hardship that they was facing, it was because they were doing exactly this, knowing that the Lord told them not to do so. You understand? Knowing that the Lord told him, hey, you get you a woman, it's got to be a sister. And to make matters worse, you understand, he brought this heathen before Moses. It's like in the sight of Moses. And that's how bold, brothers be today. Like, you understand, you speak down on interracial relationships and Isupk, you understand, and a brother will make sure that you know saying this for any brothers, of course, in school. You understand, a brother in the world or Jake in the world, he'll let you know that he has him a heathen woman. You know what I'm saying? That she's the best thing that has ever happened to him. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what is going down right here. And knowing damn well that heathen that he has, that her people have oppressed and destroyed his nation, you understand, time and time again. You know saying it's an utter slap in the face of our forefathers. You know saying, really, it's a slap in the face of your children as well, because them children, those were our forefathers. You know saying, they were just brought back here in this earth by the Lord. You know saying, because the Bible speaks of reincarnation, which a Christian pastor won't teach you. Slide. And in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 7. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, and said, Phinehas, boy, this is one mighty brother right here. You understand? Someone who, he should really be looked up to. You understand? But we're gonna get a little deeper in before FBI band 5, 7, and 9. Call up captain of 10,000 Kapash and ask him, what did that brother mean when he said that Phinehas should be looked up to. It's like, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. And saying, this brother, he saw, this Jake flaunting his disgusting heathen woman. You understand, before his brethren and before Moses, you understand, who was leading the nation at the time. You understand, and he took him a javelin. And the best way to describe a javelin, it's like a short spear. You understand? Usually warriors back then had them in, had them about 3 of them at a time. They'd be able to throw them real quick at fairly long distances to impale their enemies. Go ahead.
If I may, you kind of just wrote the phone, but a javelin, a spear is more for handheld combat. A javelin is more for throwing.
Mm-hmm.
Come.
Verse 8. It's like, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent. You understand that Jake, he took that heathen into his tent amongst his people to look to, do what many brothers do nowadays, which is, to of course lay with one of these heathens. You understand that he so much, that he cherished so much back then as to flaunt her before his people. You understand, before his leader. You understand. And saying, so Phineas, he came creeping. And so you can look up any video of a brother looking to, put it into, sadly, the only example is another brother, saying creeping around that corner, saying having his weapon nice and low so nobody can see it, peeking, doing that light little jog up to his destination to take out his target.
If I could,
okay.
What's heavy about it also is that I believe the cat that brought the Midianitish woman, his father was somebody important. Like his father was a big name in Israel. So, and he had family and blah, blah, blah. So him putting that, I don't know if you got to it yet, him putting that javelin through him, most people probably been scared to do it because they, know his family,
right.
know his people.
Right.
But shoot, he had so much strength in the Lord, and he believed in the Lord so much that he did it anyway. And the Lord said he had a covenant of peace for him and his seed.
Okay.
So basically, ain't nobody gonna touch it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nobody else will do that, but it's just he had, just know the time.
Okay.
You gotta know the time.
Okay. And that goes to show, it pays to not be a coward. You understand? Go ahead.
Ain't no tactics like the Moses tactics. Ain't no tactics like your house tactics.
You feel me? And thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. You know what I'm saying? Phineas, once he crept into that tent, you know what I'm saying, and saw that Jake trying to get down with that heathen woman, you understand, not only did he stab into the Jake, you understand, stab into the brother who looked to further the suffering of his people by laying with this heathen, you understand, who looked to disrespect, you understand, his people as well as the Lord by laying with the heathen, you understand, but he stabbed through his back, saying through his stomach and into the stomach of that heathen woman. And saying, can you imagine how much strength is needed in order for someone to stab through 2 people? Like that brother, he had to be, enraged with the fury of the Hulk in order to do that. And saying, and that's what the Isupk has been doing since '69. You understand? We've been spiritually, thrusting through these pastors who look to cling to, our oppressor. You understand? We've been defeating the demons it is that's on our people in the form of these relationships since 1969, and we're going to continue to do so until our King returns. You understand? And there ain't no power in this world that can stop us. You understand? Because we got the Most High God behind us. You understand? The God of Israel, the nigga God, to back us up in all of our endeavors. You understand? Like, you can't tell me that the Lord is not with the ISUPK through all the things it is that we have faced as a school, you understand, as an organization, and yet we always come out on top. You understand? It don't matter what powerful foe it is we gotta face. The Lord makes sure that He protects this school. You understand? Protects His house. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. You understand? And through that act, it is that Phinehas had done in killing that Jake and his woman. You understand? The Lord decided to show some mercy upon the children of Israel. It's like, you understand? It decided to no longer, you understand, take our people from us.
That's right.
Verse 9, and those that died in the plague were 24,000. And sadly, 24,000, brothers and sisters had to die because we would have much rather have laid with heathens and worshiped their gods than to follow the Lord, than to get with a sister of our nation, which is far superior than some disgusting heathen.
Right.
Like that's the hard lessons it is that we have to face as a people, and why it is that we should start really listening to the teachings of the ISUPK. You understand? Because we show our people what happens when we decide to follow after these heathens. You understand? Like our people, we look at this book like it's a bunch of, really magic. You understand? Because the Christian church teaches us to look at the Bible like it's magical, like it's something that's just, like something like goddamn like Greek mythology, something like that. You understand? When in reality, like this, the knowledge in here, it's very practical. You understand? The Lord might not have sent a plague upon our people, now in America, but He's got other ways to punish us for interracial relationships. You understand? Just imagine the amount of brothers that have had their children taken away from them. You understand? Because of some heathen. Just imagine the amount of brothers that have been locked up because some heathen has lied on them and tried saying that the brother tried raping them, all because her father is some white supremacist that she knew wouldn't want her with a brother. You understand? Like these are the different things it is that we got to take into consideration as a nation. One second.
Sorry.
Do all the prayers.
Yeah.
Come. Let's lock you 1 second. We're going to go to Ezekiel Chapter 23, verse 19. Give you a second to get there. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 23, verse 19. Yet she multiplied her whoredoms. Understand? Let's talk about, of course, sisters. Right here, you understand? And the whoredoms, it can not only be, laying with men, but as well as the gods it is that sisters had followed during this time, and calling to remembrance the days of her youth. You know, saying, which so many sisters do, today in America. Just recalling their days of being, a whore. You understand? Because like it's extremely hard to find a sister in the world that has not had countless men. You understand? Like that's why this school is so important, because once you come into this school, you understand, you'll get a sister that has never been with a man. You understand? Once you lay with a sister, you're the first man it is that she has ever been with. You understand? But yet, because of America's, culture and what it is that they push on our people through the Christian church, they promote whoredom in such a aggressive way into the Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous community, so much so that, you can just go on social media and there are countless sisters, just being whores on there. You understand? Countless sisters just trying to show out and, do everything it is that they can in order to be that ideal American, Black woman. You understand? So much so that I believe it was Black China. You understand? Her mother had went public, and because she didn't agree with how Black China got her fame and her wealth, and she made a statement saying, you have any idea how many rods she has sucked in order to feed her children. You understand? That's sadly, that's something that so many sisters reflect on and don't really shame themselves. You understand? The sisters that were whores, they don't really shame their youth. Go ahead.
They take pride in talk about golf balls through garden hoses and all.
Damn. So I like it. Wherein she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt. You understand? That's exactly what sisters do today in the land of America. You understand? That they play the whore in America. You understand? That's why that what's that called? The whore culture is so so prominent within Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous communities. You understand? Because that's what is pushed onto our people. And so that's what the Christian church has, promoted year in and year out. Verse 20, for she doted upon their paramours. You understand? Because these sisters, they've had an extreme, love for these different lovers. You understand? They've really done what they can in order to please these other nations when it comes to abandoning how it is that they're supposed to be as sisters, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Saying this, talking about the issue. You're saying if you're into Egyptology and all that comedic nonsense, you understand, they'll say that the issue is talking about, the rod of something, because they're simply, gay. They'll think that this is talking about the rod of Egyptians, because that's all that they think about. You understand? That's the gods it is that they worship is gods that shoot into their own mouths and spit it out and make creation. You understand? But when the issue is talking about the children, you understand, or the seed, you understand? So the seed it is that sisters brought forth out of the land of Egypt. It's like the issue of horses. You understand? So these, I guess, biracial children, it is that sisters have brought forth, who are really, Egyptians during that time. Nowadays, it's just, it's like devils, you understand, or our oppressor. You understand? It's like is like the issue of horses. You understand? So basically, this scripture is saying that these children are like beasts. You understand? So sisters that bring forth babies from a heathen, like these children, they're really no better than a beast, than an animal. You understand? That's why it is comparing it to an ass or a horse. And that's something that, like, our people, we don't really look at the children from another nation, like, the father that's a heathen, that's an Israelite, or Black, Hispanic, and Indigenous. We don't look at them like they are separate from us. We look at them like they're the same. You know, they got the same, complexion. And saying they got the same hair. You know, the same nose. All of that. The characteristics as we do, but in reality, they are completely separate from us. You know, that's why in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 18, that's like the Lord tells us how it is that we're supposed to, declare our pedigrees. You understand? It's to show that your nationality is determined by the seed of your father.
Right.
You understand? So when a sister brings forth one of these heathen babies, saying it's really no better than your dog. You understand? It's just a beast of the field. You understand? That's your Bob Marley's. Who else got a devil pops?
Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah, it's like Nipsey Hussle, whose father was an African. You understand? Damn near any so-called brother or sister that has like a Jewish name. You understand? Their father is most certainly a devil. You understand? Slovakia. 1 second.
Unless they took their mom's name. Unless they took their mom's last name.
Slovakia. Unless they took their mom's last name, because we know how much it is that the Jewish man likes to usurp authority over, brothers. I'll say, but all the celebrities it is that I looked up, that had Jewish names, I couldn't really find any of them whose father was a brother and mother was Jewish. Them taking that last name of the heathens.
Right.
You want me to end it since I just got here? I say it's 47.
What time is it now?
47.
Yeah, 45. Just stop it right there.
Okay. So with that said, so we're going to get into the ISUPK security announcements. ISUPK security announcements. We're the ISUPK. Started out of 1 West, 125th Street, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister.
Right.
There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister report each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 to 10, means tenth in the Hebrew, Mayashra. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. It's a free will offering for priests. And it's not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. Feast of Purim, February 14th to the 15th. It's at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. 3532 North Keystone Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana.
All right.
If you got any questions, you can always Google ISUPK Indianapolis, saying hit the call button, and you can ask all your questions to the mighty priest and captain that picks up the phone. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and a war scar. With that said, I madium, which means to stand. Wapanya haki dam, which means to turn and face the east.
Yeah.
Since they're here.
Do all
This is the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Avanahu, Shabashamayim, Quadash, Hayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakuthka, Tawa'ah, Ratazayaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'ar Ratazah, Kawur, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nathan, Lanawa, Lakam, Ka, Yawam, Wasalakanaw, Kawabawathanaw, Kasalakanaw, Kawabawathanaw, Wala'ah, Tawayainaw, Banasaya 1, Abba, Hawashainaw, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Amalaku, Waha'alu, Wa Tapari,
Tapari,
La'alamyum,
Alam,
Aman.
Aman.
The Lord's Prayer in the English. Our Father,
Our Father,
which art in heaven,
which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
thy kingdom come,
thy kingdom come,
thy will be done
thy will be done
in earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day
Give us this day
our daily bread,
our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
So be it.
So be it.
Prayer for the Hakak, or the power in the Hebrew. Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
by Hashem Yahushua,
Babakashah,
Babakashah,
Nathanahu,
Nathanael,
Hakak,
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 La Rapa'ah,
Larabah,
Kamakala,
Kamakala,
Wakal
Wakamawa,
Hakak,
Hakak,
Lata'ar,
Uthar,
Hamatazaraim,
Umatazariah,
Hakak,
Hakak,
Lahakim,
Lahakim,
Hamathium,
Hamathium,
Hakak,
Hakak,
Arakawah,
Arakawa,
Hatamala,
Tama'ala,
Lagarshan,
Darshan,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
by Hashem Yahushua,
the Wadaman.
Wadaram,
Prayer for the power in English. Yahweh,
Yahweh,
in the name of Yahushua,
in the name of Yahushua,
please give us the power,
please give us the
power to heal
power to heal
all manner of sickness
all manner of sickness,
and all manner of disease,
all manner of disease,
the power to cleanse the
the
lepers,
power to cleanse the lepers,
the power to raise the dead,
the power to raise the dead,
the power against unclean
the
spirits,
power against unclean spirits,
to cast them out.
to cast them out.
In the name of Yahushua,
In the name of Yahushua,
thank you.
thank you.
So be it.
So be it.
Prayer for the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatha Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
wa Yahushua,
by Yahushua,
wam Yaka'ala,
Wama Yaka'ala,
wa Alahayim,
Wa'alahayim,
Matazabiyah,
Matazab Ya'ah,
Alawap Yahana,
Alawap Yahana,
Ha'alawapyum,
Ha'alawapim,
Hazaranyum,
Ha'asaranyim,
Ha'kwatazayanyum,
Ha'akotazayayim,
Ha'kayayayum,
Ha'akayayim,
wa Akwathium,
Wa'akwathyim,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
by Hashem Yahushua,
the Wadaman.
Wa'aman.
The blessings in the English. Bless you, Yahweh,
Bless you, Yahweh,
and Yahushua,
and Yahushua,
and Michael,
and Michael,
and the angels,
and the angels,
commanding General Yahana,
commanding General Yahana,
the generals,
the generals,
the captains,
the captains,
the officers,
the officers,
the troopers,
the troopers,
and the sisters.
and the sisters.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
in the name of Yahushua,
in the name of Yahushua,
thank you.
thank you.
So be it.
So be it.
Anointing prayer in the Hebrew. Yabaraka Yahweh. Yabaraka Yahweh.
Yabaraka Yahweh,
Wa Yashamarka.
by Shamarka,
Ya'ar Yahweh.
Yahweh Yahweh,
Han Yahweh.
and Yahweh,
Al-Yaka.
Alika,
Wa Yakanyaka.
Waikanika,
Yasha'ah.
Yasha'ah,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Han Yahweh.
and Yahweh,
Al-Yaka.
Alika,
Wa Yasham.
Waisham,
Laka.
Laka,
Shalom.
Shalom,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
by Hashem Yahushua,
Barak.
Barak,
Rapah.
Rapah,
Magun.
Agun,
Hagun.
Agun, the Thurman family,
The Thurman family.
the Sutton family,
The Sutton family.
the Hill family,
The Hill family.
the Shitty family,
The Shimmy family.
the Nelson family,
The Nelson family.
and all the children of Israel.
And all the story of Israel.
Done.
The McClatchy family.
The McClatchy family,
The Nix family.
the Nix family,
The Young
the
family.
Young family,
The Cannon family.
the Cannon family,
The Hester family.
the Hester family,
And all the destroyed of Israel.
and all the children of Israel.
Done.
Done. The Bonds,
The
Bonds.
the Wallace family,
the
Wallace family.
the Thomas family,
The Thomas family.
and all the story of Israel.
And all the destroyed of Israel.
Done.
Any sisters, if you have any family or people you want to pray for, there's no specific order, whoever speaks first.
All the story of Israel.
All the
All the
story of
story of
Israel.
Israel.
Done.
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
By Hashem Yahushua,
The water Aman.
the water Aman.
Anointing prayer in English. Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Bless thee and keep thee.
bless thee and keep thee.
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Make his face shine upon thee.
make his face shine upon thee,
And be gracious unto thee.
and be gracious unto thee.
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
lift up his countenance upon thee,
Lift up his countenance upon me.
and give thee peace.
Give thee peace.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
in the name of Yahushua,
In the name of Yahushua.
bless,
Bless.
heal,
Heal.
shield,
Shield.
protect
Protect.
the loved ones we just named.
The loved ones we just named.
Blessed are you, Yahweh,
Blessed unto Yahweh.
King of heaven and earth,
King of heaven and earth.
and all things living.
And all things living.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
in the name of Yahushua,
In the name of Yahushua.
listen to us now,
Listen to us now.
right now,
Right now.
send evils and curses,
Send evils and curses.
and punishment and destruction
And punishment and destruction.
to the heathen
To the heathen.
that speak against us,
That speak against us.
like prophets,
Like prophets.
the teachers,
The teachers.
the princes,
The princes.
the priests,
The priests.
the Israelite brothers,
The Israelite brothers.
and the school.
And the school.
Send evils and curses,
Send evils and curses.
and punishment and destruction
And punishment and destruction.
to the heathen,
To the heathen.
and shake loose the treasure
And shake loose the treasure.
of the rich of Israel
Of the rich of Israel.
that refuse to give to the school,
That refuse to give to the school.
force their riches
Force their riches.
to enter into thy sanctuary.
To enter into thy sanctuary.
Send evils and curses,
Send evils and curses.
and punishment and destruction
And punishment and destruction.
to the Edomites,
To the Edomites.
and the nations,
And the nations.
and their drug dealers,
And the drug dealers.
the court system,
Court system.
the prison system,
Prison system.
Planned Parenthood,
Planned Parenthood.
all the governments of our enemies,
All governments of our enemies.
Amalek synagogues and armies,
Amalek synagogues and armies.
Roman Catholic Church,
Roman Catholic Church.
the Pope,
The Pope.
Islam,
Islam.
Christianity,
Christianity.
Egyptology,
Egyptology.
militia,
Militia.
Ku Klux Klan,
Ku Klux Klan.
Aryan Nation,
Aryan Nation.
skinheads,
Skinheads.
Posse Comitazi,
Posse Comitazi.
the gay movement,
The gay movement.
the lesbian movement,
The lesbian movement.
spies,
Spies.
workers of witchcraft,
Workers of witchcraft.
NASA space program,
NASA space programs.
Army,
Army.
Navy,
Navy.
Air Force,
Air Force.
Marines,
Marines.
Wall Street,
Wall Street.
open up the internet
Open up the internet.
and the airways,
And the airways.
the cable access channels,
Cable access channels.
and the radio channels.
And the radio channels.
Convict the spirit
Convict the spirit
of any of thy people
of any of thy people
that seek to stop us,
that seek to stop us.
and bring swift destruction
And bring swift destruction
to all the heathens
to all the heathen
that stand in the way
that stand in the way
or try to stop us from broadcasting your words
or try to stop us from broadcasting your words
throughout the planet Earth.
throughout the planet Earth.
Let loose all the plagues.
Let loose all the plagues.
Cause them to go to and fro
Cause them to go to and fro
through the earth
through the earth
and consume them.
and consume them.
Let the plague shake the house of the thief
Let the plague shake the house of the thief
and the murderer.
and the murderer.
Let Yahushua,
Let Yahushua,
Michael,
Michael,
and Gabriel
and Gabriel
come down with the flying saucers
come down with the flying saucers
and punish all the heathens
and punish all the heathens
that come up against us
and come up against us.
as we speak thy word.
As we speak thy word,
Cause it to be known
cause it to be known
by all
by all
that it is the angels that hath done it.
that it is the angels that have done it.
Cause it to be spread
Cause it to be spread
through the media
through the media
throughout the whole world.
throughout the whole world.
Cause them to shake at thy coming.
Cause it to shake at thy coming.
In the name of Yahushua,
In the name of Yahushua,
thank you.
thank you.
Always.
Always.
So be it.
So be it.
Sar, which means eternal. Arkawathi and Yeshavia, which means to be seated. We give salute to the brothers, men of Israel. Amadium Shabbat. Amadium. Barak.
Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Barakatum.
Yadim Matah. Sar, turn and face sisters. Arkawathi and Amadium, which means to stand. We give a salute to the sisters, men of Israel. Amadium Shabbat. Amadium. Barak. Yahweh Shemar
Bashim Yahushua.
Yadim Matah. Class dismissed.